so pleased to have Matt Fraser on, who's a psychic medium. So we're going to talk about the past. I want to get this story from you, Matt. You're a child of, let's say, 3 or 4 years old. What starts to happen?
So basically, when I was a kid, I was like the little boy from The Sixth Sense, is that I would be in my bedroom at night and seeing and hearing the departed, trying to get messages to me. And it was scary. When I was a kid, literally seeing and hearing the departed was not something that I wanted to do. I'd be yelling and screaming in my room at night and, calling for my mom to try to come and console me because I was seeing and hearing those who had passed on.
So you were like the movie, The
Absolutely.
Sixth Sense. Do you remember the first time this happened? You say you're 3 or 4. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Cranston, Rhode Island, and my grandmother was a medium. She could see and sense and feel the departed, but it was, kept secret because I guess back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was
You found
taboo.
this out later.
I found this out later on. And when I was 3 or 4, my grandmother departed. And that was actually the first time that I communicated with spirit, is that I saw my grandmother standing, above my bed. And it was comforting at first because, she'd come and visit me. And then later on, other spirits would come in and other spirits would, it was almost like a channel that was open to try to reach me and pass on messages. And it was scary.
Now you say you've got a sister who does not have this gift, or
Right.
your father. But you tell me your mother has the same gift.
Yes, because it's on my mom's side of the family where my grandmother had this gift, passed it on to my mom, and then in turn passed it on to me.
Is it a gift, or is it you're 24 years old. Is it a burden to be able to see people on the other side, as you would put it? How do you handle this burden?
Well, at first, it was a burden to me because I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted to experience and sense things, that other people did. I didn't want to have the burden of hearing voices and seeing dead people and, being distracted no matter where I went. And it was scary for me. It was really hard for me to live a normal life and to push these voices away when I was growing up, but I did for many years. And it wasn't until later on in life that I learned to embrace it and that it was a gift and it wasn't a burden.
Who did you tell among your peer group? And did they look at you and say, you're crazy?
Well, when I was older, I told nobody. But when I was growing up, I had my next door neighbor who was my age, who was my best friend at the time, Rachel. We grew up together in diapers. And I used to tell her all the time about seeing, the departed and hearing from my grandmother and hearing from people who had passed. And it's funny because her family just used to say, oh, he's a little bit crazy, or he has like a strange imagination. And now here we are, all these years later, and she's like, wow, you really did see your grandmother, and you really did have these experiences where, you connected.
So you get up in the morning, and do you hear things? Do you see things? Take me through your day.
So now that I have private readings and I meet with clients from all over the world, I'm so humbled by all the people who reach out looking to connect with those who have passed on. When I get up in the morning, usually I have some private phone calls that are lined up, and the minute I get up, I'll hear that departed person coming through wanting to talk to that family member on the phone. So when I wake up in the morning, I'll hear, okay, there's a father that's waiting to talk to his daughter, or a son that's waiting to connect with his mother, or a mother who didn't get to say goodbye that wants to talk to her son. So when I get up, it's like there is no time out when it comes to, the spirit world. They're always on, and sometimes even before I go to bed. It's really at the times when I'm trying to go to bed, or that, I'm trying to recap at the end of the day, or trying to calm down, that when your mind's quiet, that they start to come in and you start to hear the voices.
How do you quiet them?
Well, to be honest with you, I started embracing this so young that now it's become a part of who I am. There is no turning off. No matter where I go, I'm always hearing and seeing the departed. I try to live as normal of a life as I can, but normally it just is constant voices, constant, people trying to come through and reach out. Because when you come to a medium, the other side sees this as an opportunity to be able to reach their loved one. So they try to take advantage of that.
How has your mother guided you? And does she do readings now too? And has she said, oh, you're just like me? I mean, how does she guide you through this?
Well, when I was first growing up, it's funny because when I would be having these experiences, just being, 3, 4, 5 years old and seeing the departed and hearing them and yelling and screaming for my mom to come in and help me and to save me from, what I was seeing and what I was experiencing, instead of her being on the side of me and going, oh, it's okay, come sleep with me and your dad tonight, or don't worry about it, I'm gonna leave the light on. It was just the opposite. My mom's on the side of me going, what are they saying to you? Who's coming through? Was it grandma? What's she saying? Talk to them.
Because you were talking shop.
Right, so she was trying to get me to embrace it, I guess. I always say that I should have seen a psychologist because I was so afraid of, what I was hearing that I pushed it away. I put my walls up. I said, this is the end. I don't want to hear them. I don't want to connect with them. So I pushed it away until my teen years, just because it was such a burden to carry at that time.
How often are you wrong? Because you do readings, and you're doing readings all over the place, all over the country at this point, or just in New England?
No, all over the country. I get calls from a lot of different countries. I do group readings all up and down the East Coast. So it's really expanded. It's really amazing, and I'm humbled by the messages and the people who are always reaching out and looking for insight or help.
How are you helping them?
So basically, a lot of times people come to me because they're dealing with a lot of grief and a lot of heavy emotion. A lot of times people pass, and a lot of times people reach out to me in the most tragic cases where they lose a son or they lose a daughter, and there's guilt that's there. Maybe that son committed suicide, and there's all these unanswered questions: why he did it, what happened, what was going through his mind at that exact moment, why did he separate, why didn't he reach out to us? All these different questions that people are left with after they lose a loved one. And that's where I come in, and a lot of times I'm recommended by guidance counselors and therapists and things like that because, seeing a medium is like using another tool in the toolbox. It's being able to reconnect with that loved one, get some of those questions answered, and more importantly, receive a little bit of closure.
Now, you told me you've helped out police departments and that you helped out some of the parents at Sandy Hook. Heavy, heavy stuff. You're 24 years old. How do you handle that?
Well, at first it was hard. Being able to sit down with a parent who lost a child or somebody who lost a loved one tragically, it's hard to sit down with them and not feel the emotion that person's going through. When I first started doing this, I would sit down with that person and cry on the side of them. But now, after doing this and seeing the transformation, it's all about seeing the transformation. You see these people come in, and at first, they sit down with me and they're nervous and they're scared, and there's a million different thoughts running through them.
And what are you going to tell them, right?
Right. And then, when they go and they make that transition, you see all of a sudden, after hearing from that loved one, they're leaving and they're smiling, there's tears of joy and they're happy, and people call me up. I get so many phone calls where people will say to me, this changed my life, and I feel like I can heal now, and I feel that it's like a heavy coat that's just been lifted off me.
Have you solved cases?
I am assisting with solving cases right now. There's a lot of times where I'll get calls from police departments, and you have to remember that they call a medium when there is nothing, when there are no leads, when there's no new evidence, when there's no suspects. I get the bare minimum. So I don't think that there's any psychic medium, and there's no psychic medium that is an official, police detective or an official psychic detective. But what we do is that we're like tools in the toolbox for that police department to use to dig up some new leads. And a lot of times that can help to push the police department in the right direction, or to help dig up some new evidence that they can use to either help to put someone behind bars or to help, prove that such and such a person did it. It's not me who can, say who it is, who goes behind bars, or what that's up to the judicial system, but it definitely helps them put in the right direction.
So you're getting calls from all over the world. You told me there are certain guidelines, lines in the sand. You won't do certain things because you want to be taken seriously. What things won't you do? Because people are going to try to prove you wrong all the time, but have you said no to Hollywood?
Well, a couple of times, but it's different things that I get called to do. Like as a medium, sometimes people don't know exactly what you do. For example, one year I got a call. They're like, "Could you come and open up spooky worlds for us?" And I'm like, believe me, I don't think you know what a medium is, because there's nothing spooky about me. I might talk to the dead, but I deliver messages that provide hope, healing, and closure. Not to scare anybody, not to make anyone feel uncomfortable. And there's always TV shows that are contacting me, and I'm constantly getting calls, for people that want to develop reality TV series about, finding missing and murdered children, or going and, dealing with hauntings or things like that. And I want my work to really be about helping others and helping those families provide closure. I feel like that's what my calling is. Not dealing with the wooga booga or house sagings or things like that, but dealing with the families and helping them to shed light not only on the passings not only shed light on the passing, but also deal with alleviating that grief.
What about animals? Because you work for Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Yes.
What about animals on the other side? Because people ask you this all the time.
So I sit on the board of Forever Paws Animal Shelter, and I feel like that's a big part of my role as a medium is, helping out not only people who are grieving, but also to help out any soul here in this world. So I love working with animals. I love being able, especially animals that are stray and neglected, and helping them to find homes and helping them to find a loving family, because I feel like that's the bonds of love that keeps us connected to our pets and to those animals here in the physical world. It's soul recognizes soul. We recognize the soul that's inside of that cat, dog, rabbit. I've had at different events so many different animals that have come through, from horses to rabbits to guinea pigs. They all make it to the other side.
There's a lot of noise going on over there.
It gets a little crazy sometimes.
Matt, at 24, what is the end game? You said you started out as an EMT to help people. Where are you headed, do you think?
Well, right now it's about reaching as many people as possible, and also teaching people that, I always say that as a medium does not bring your loved ones to you. You bring your loved one to us. When I do a group reading, your loved one is right there. They're sitting right behind you. And I think it's giving that person the validation of knowing that their loved one's there, teaching that person that they can communicate with their loved one all the time.
So we all can develop this.
Absolutely.
Perhaps not to your level,
right.
But we can develop a sixth sense. You wrote a book, The Secrets to Unlocking Your Psychic Ability. What are you trying to teach people in this book? So
it's basically filled with exercises, tools, and techniques that my family has used to strengthen our abilities, because basically it all starts with your intuition, and your intuition is that feeling that you get that the phone's going to ring, and next thing you know it does. Or that feeling where you just think of somebody and they're on your mind, and then you run into that person, person reaches out to you. That's your intuition talking. It's the same channel that our loved ones use to communicate with us. And they send us signs, they send us symbols, they send us ways to let us know, kind of like hellos from heaven, to let us know that they're in our life, that they're right by our side, and that they've never left. It's up to us to go and to pay attention to some of the things that they send us. You would describe yourself as a religious person? I was born Catholic and raised Catholic, but now I guess I'm more spiritual because you see them all. Because I see them, right, exactly. Have you ever talked to another child that is going through the same thing? Do you see other people? Have you met other people that had a childhood like you? Not yet. There have been times at events where different loved ones will come through and say that, there's a grandson in the family who sees me, or, a granddaughter that sees or experiences them. And it's very common that children will go and see or connect with a loved one who has departed. I hear stories all the time, and I get tons of emails of people, who send me messages and say, is this normal? My son is seeing his grandfather that passed before he's born. He's only, 2-3 years old or whatever. And that does happen. I mean, and I feel that pets can see them too. I feel that pets have a sixth sense, and that they can even sense the spirit of a loved one that's there. The biggest burden about doing all of this is that you said it's never quiet. You're hearing things, you're seeing things. As you go forward and become much older, what wisdom are you getting from all of this? Are you a tool, you think, being used on this planet? What wisdom are you gaining from this? Absolutely. I learn from the other side so much about life and so much about some of the obstacles that we deal with here today. It's all about positivity. It's all about us being positive here in the physical world and being kinder to other people. One of the strongest things that I've learned from the other side is really about to help other people out. It's all about random acts of kindness, helping out, your neighbor, helping out people that are around you, because we're all here together. You would not call yourself a clairvoyant. You can't read the future, but you say what about that from voices that you hear? So basically, it's not me who predicts the future. The answers don't come from me. The answers come from the other side. So I always say that the other side can hear, the other side sees tomorrow so much more clearly than we see today. That being said, they can see when we're going to get married, what kind of car we're going to drive, where we're going to live, different things that are coming up within our lives because they're with us every day. They can see into the future, they can see into the past, because when you go to the other side, your energy. So that being said, when I'm doing a reading, it's those on the other side who tell me that information. They'll tell me, there's going to be a baby born into the family, or, tell my daughter I see that she's going to get married, or things like that, to let us know that they have an active part within our life, and also show us some of the things that they're rooting for us. They want us to know that they're with us through every single event, birthday, celebration, no matter what it is, they're by our side.
Do you ever have a day when you're just wrong? When people look at you and say, no, that's not right. I mean, does that ever happen, or? There's
times when I'll walk into a room and maybe the person that's there doesn't understand about who's coming through, or might not recognize it because it may have been a grandmother that had passed before they were born, or a grandfather that passed before they were born. There's always an instance where we might not connect the dots right away, but then when they go home, it's like I get an email that says, oh my God, you were right, that was my grandmother, that was my grandfather, or so-and-so came through, and I couldn't place who it was. Because a lot of times when I go up and I read somebody, they get a little bit of psychic amnesia. There's so much information that comes through, and there's so much things there's so much that's being talked about, and some of the things could have happened, 20, 50 years ago, that they bring up. So the person, sometimes it's information overload, but then when they go back and they look at it, they're like, yes, I know exactly what you mean. Or sometimes it takes reaching out to another family member to see if grandma really did that, or grandpa really did that, or if this person was really a part of the family, things like that.
So we're in a big studio right now. And there's you, and there's me, and there's a couple of other people who are on the crew. Are there people in here with us?
Absolutely.
Right now.
So
how crowded is it?
Well, actually, it's not as crowded as you would think, because there's not too many people. But it really gets crazy when I go into a big crowd, because I'll hear, the voices of, just walking on the street of the
Somebody
person.
asked you about New York City.
Right. It's as many people as are in New York City. Bet about every person walking on that street that there's about 10 people sitting behind them that had departed. It could be a great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, friend, brother, sister, aunt, whoever it is. Our loved ones follow us with us. It's like we carry them with us no matter where we go. And even when I was here in studio before I got onto the set, I was hearing the voices of one of your co-workers that was here about her uncle that just passed, and I'm sitting where she was in the control room, and all of a sudden he's coming over and he's talking to me, telling me, I passed tragically, you need to talk about this, it was an unintentional suicide, and he's going on and on and on and on and on. So it's almost like they see it as an opportunity to be able to reach out.
And you did nail that one. I did hear that. Anything else that you want us to know about a psychic medium? Because a lot of people will say, you guys are crazy, you're writing this stuff, it's not true. I mean, how do you want people to view you?
Well, first of all, it's funny to say that, because I think that everybody walks into a psychic medium as a skeptic. And if you don't, I think you should, because I don't feel that everybody has the ability, but I feel that those that do really do. And what happens is that, especially during my events, I'm all about validation. I want that person to know that their loved one is with them and that it is their loved one coming through. So I do my events very differently than any other medium that you'll see. Instead of being up on stage, or instead of having, a curtain in front of me, I'm right down on the floor with the people, because that's where I want to be. I keep all of my events limited. They're, only 150 to 200 people. And because I want everyone to feel like they're part of a group experience. And more importantly, to walk away and to feel uplifted. So literally during an event, I run up and down the rows, reconnecting as many people as possible with their loved ones in heaven. And the messages that I receive are very specific. It's not standing in front of the room and saying, oh, I feel there's a John over here. I feel that there's someone over here.
Or it begins with a B.
Right.
Right.
What I do is literally I'll stand up in front of the room, I talk a little bit about, maybe 5-10 minutes about what the experience will be like, and then it's 2 hours of readings. And I walk up and down the room, and I'll ask people to stand up, and I'll say, I see your mom sitting behind you, I'll see your brother sitting behind you, stand up, this is what they're telling you, and I say it, and I do it that way. And the reason why—
close your eyes and pause. What is going on then?
Well, because a lot of times you have to remember that when I'm receiving information, it's quick bits of information. They don't come through and say, hi, how are you doing today? What's going on in your world? What it is I'll see things, I'll feel things, I'll sense things, any way that they can use my body to communicate. And a lot of times, a lot of times I don't know some of the specific things that they're pointing to, so I close my eyes just to kind of focus in a little bit better. It's almost like these pictures that are thrown in front of me, it's almost like if I took a photo album and I pass it over to you and I says, okay, tell me about my life. And you're looking through the photos and you say, okay, this looks like a grandfather, and this looks like you just had a birthday, and this looks like you were 3 years old and you had a strong relationship. That's what I'm doing, is I'm looking through pictures. It's all data that I'm analyzing and kind of connecting the dots to put the story together and to deliver the message.
As you've aged, have you gotten to be a better reader? And can you filter out better?
It's like learning a language. Every day, I feel like I'm getting stronger. And every day, there's new ways that I'm learning to communicate, and there's new ways that I'm learning to communicate with the other side. It's like, how we are sometimes looking in the dictionary and trying to find out the different, meanings to words. We don't know all the meanings to words. But as a medium, that's my job, is I'm constantly learning about new ways that they're communicating with me, use new ways that they're trying to pass through information. And it's all about embracing that. So
as we sit here, I'm going to ask you one more time. There are people in here that are from the other side.
Absolutely.
Give me an example.
I do have, and I feel that there was somebody that had passed here shortly after surgery that's off camera.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Matt Fraser, thank you so much for coming on. Psychic medium, look for him.
When one listen, who is this girl I spend all night kissing? And the bumper's right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm intuition and find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store of my mind, just to save time. I'll skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know that you need me?